knocked it off.
The ball. No.
What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here and you like vlogs, gear reviews, and pews, hit that subscribe button down below. This video is going to be a little bit different than my normal review video. And I think it's going to be a good topic for a lot of you shooters that have been shooting for a while. Today I wanted to talk about what it means to be a mentor to a new shooter. Once a month, I usually go out shooting with a bunch of guys here locally in Utah. Now, we don't get a whole lot of newer shooters. Typically, the ones that come out with us are ones that are pretty experienced and have been shooting for quite a while. My buddy Logan, who you can find on Instagram as Black Echo, made the suggestion of potentially bringing out a couple new shooters so we can kind of show them the ropes and kind of break them out of that mold of being casual shooters. Now, the guys we usually head out with, myself included, usually head out with at least a couple rifles, a couple handguns, maybe a plate carrier, and so on and so forth. Everything we carry and bring to our shooting day is to not only improve our marksmanship, but also to just get familiar with our equipment, to increase our speed, and whatever else we can think of to make ourselves better shooters. Sounds like a good climate to bring new shooters, right? That's why I decided to make this video, so I can impart to you what I think would be good things to have as a mentor. Spread out throughout this video, I'll have clips of our last shooting activity that we had last month, and you'll see three guys in the video, just very briefly, a little bit of what they were doing and how we were teaching them during our shooting activity. All right, what's your name?
Wyatt.
Okay, how long have you been shooting for?
Probably about 3 weeks.
Okay, 3 weeks. What got you into shooting?
My older brother.
Okay, cool. And what do you expect to learn in the next few weeks to a few months as you come out and train and all of that stuff?
How to hit a target, really. And
okay.
The overall purpose, I guess, is for self-defense and home defense.
All right, what's your name?
It's Matthew.
Okay, and how long have you been shooting for, Matt?
I mean, I started shooting for the first time back in like Boy Scouts when I was younger. Haven't shot in a couple months, but yeah, I'm starting up again.
And what do you expect to learn today, or in the next few weeks to a few months?
Just kind of everything gun, you know, just like how to manipulate them, how to use them.
What's your name?
I'm Carl Spencer.
Okay, and Carl, how long have you been shooting for?
Casual. I mean, I'm a very casual shooter. I just go out with some buddies every once in a while. I've been shooting for a few years.
Okay, and when you come out to things like this, what do you expect to learn?
The first thing is how to actually properly use the firearm.
Okay.
You know, when I casually shoot, I'm just out with my buddies. You know, we set up a couple clay pigeons or we put out a milk jug or something like that, right, and we're shooting at it. But, you know, this is a first time experience for me to see someone actually properly learn how to draw your weapon, how to keep it secure, the things that you actually want to learn when you go through your CCW class. And, you know, this is real life actual practice.
Like put it into practice,
yeah.
all that stuff. Okay, cool, man. Well, yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
From those intros, you can see that those three guys really never went out more than just casually or just to have fun. So we figured this was a good opportunity to bring them out to the range. Don't get me wrong, I love to have fun at the range. I love to make it a day to, you know, just plink at whatever or do whatever, but I also like to couple fun with training and becoming better. When inviting a new shooter out to shoot, it is important to adhere to a few different guidelines so as to make their experiences a positive one. Guideline number 1, make sure to teach them proper safety rules. For example, 1, always keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire. Always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction and know what's beyond your target. And 3, always keep your gun unloaded until you're ready to use it. The rest of the rules can be found on the NRA's website, which I'll include in the description below. I bring this up because I have gone out many times with a lot of people that just kind of bring their guns out and don't explain any safety rules whatsoever except only point the gun that way. They don't really give any depth to their rules, and so I find that really outlining this is super important for your safety and for theirs. If you're an experienced shooter and you're bringing new shooters out for the first time, or you're bringing out people that don't shoot very often, please be sure to explain the safety rules to them. And if you don't know the safety rules, look them up. Number 2, don't start with the biggest, baddest gun you have. Start with smaller calibers and work your way up. Like myself, I'm sure you've had a friend or relative who took out a female for the first time to go shooting. The person they brought with them was very inexperienced and had very little experience holding a firearm. And the first thing the boyfriend puts in their hand is a Mossberg 12 gauge or a 50 caliber whatever in their hands, and then sets it in their hand, tells them to point, and then shoot it. She shoots it, and then gets a nice Kimbo slice punch to the shoulder. She then never shoots again because she's scared, and now her whole gun experience is tarnished and she will never go out to the shooting range with her boyfriend again. Probably sounds a little familiar, right? Yes, I know that's a super general example, but it does happen, and it does make it so that people's attitudes towards guns are not good. I feel like that's where it all starts, is those negative experiences. So my point is, just start off small. Get them used to the idea of shooting, and then go from there. It's really easy to just want to show off. Just don't do it. Be a teacher, not a performer. Number 3, know your equipment. There's been a lot of times where I've gone out to the range and, you know, at the beginning when I started shooting, I did the same thing. I would bring something out, and I wouldn't know how to use it. I can tell you right now that your credibility goes completely out the window as soon as your new shooters see you fumbling around with a rifle or with a handgun or with a loading tool, whatever. It just kind of gives off the bad impression that you don't know what you're doing. Make sure you yourself are comfortable with the equipment you bring. That way you can teach it more effectively. Part of knowing your equipment too is also making sure that you bring good equipment. My advice to you is, and I know this will get me a lot of flack, but try to invest in some targets and some hangers and things like that. Steel, yes, can be a little more expensive, but it's a good investment.
I smoked you guys!
If you're taking out a new shooter, make sure you're not just shooting at cans. There's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure you have a variety of things to shoot at. Paper targets can be found for pennies on the dollar. So purchase maybe 10 to 20 of those, and then maybe build yourself a stand out of some wood from Home Depot. I can leave plans in the description below for a couple of stands that I think are pretty cool. Yes, steel is a little bit more expensive, and it's a little bit harder to obtain, especially if you don't have the cash for it, but nothing beats the ping of a bullet hitting a steel target. Lastly, be prepared a little bit. Make sure you have a few extra pairs of ear and eye protection. I know that when I've brought out new shooters before, a lot of them don't really know what to bring beforehand. Usually I'll try to communicate with them as to what they should bring, and then I'll kind of gauge what I have and that I can share with them. Number 4, demonstrate how to use the firearms you bring out before you load them. One thing that's really bothered me when I've gone out with experienced shooters that have newer shooters with them, and that is the lack of communication and explanations. I've been out in groups before where a lot of the times the person with the guns who is experienced with them tells everybody to put their eyes and ears on, and then proceeds to try to explain the whole use of the gun fully loaded. All the while he's shouting over his ear protection and their ear protection. It's not a good way to explain something. A lot of info is misheard and mistakes can be made. Take your time explaining things. Make sure your firearm is unloaded. That way you can give a thorough explanation of how a firearm works. Even if somebody is super experienced with firearms, it's probably good to just make sure everybody knows how to use yours. You know the quirks about them, you know the nuances of your guns, so be sure to relate that to the people that you're with. If they're completely new to firearms, teach them how to shoot it, teach them how to load it, teach them how to ensure it's unloaded. Also, safe handling when you're handing it off or putting it back in the case, things like that. They will feel so much more at ease when they're holding a piece of hardware that is no longer a foreign object to them. They'll feel so much better when it's thoroughly explained and they know how everything functions on that firearm. Don't explain everything once the person has their ear protection on, has their eye protection on, is pointing down range and is ready to shoot. Make sure all of that information is given before you even get to that point. Let them know it's okay to ask questions and make sure all of your directions are heard and understood. Number 5, be patient with them. Because you're an experienced shooter, it really is easy to get frustrated with new shooters who maybe aren't understanding everything you're explaining right away. My advice to you is don't get frustrated. This kind of falls into the explanation point I made earlier. When there is solid explanation and demonstration, there is less of a likelihood that your new shooter will make bigger mistakes. Even if they do make mistakes, slow down, take your time to explain whatever it is they're struggling with, and talk them through it. Even re-explain something if you have to. Just remember how it was for you when you were learning how to shoot, or when you were learning how to do any other thing out in the world. When you were learning how to do your job, when you were learning how to learn your trade, what have you. It's kind of the same principle. except you're in a more comfortable environment where it's you and that person. Hopefully they trust you and you trust them. It's really good to make sure you establish that communication with them. Make sure they know that they can ask questions. If they press the trigger and the gun doesn't go boom because they forgot to take the safety off, kindly let them know what to do. Simple as that. Number 6, set them up for success. The reason why I like steel targets is because of the sound they make. Anyone that has shot steel, as I've said before, really enjoys that ping, and it gives kind of a very almost tactile sensation of, wow, I just hit that target. And it's super satisfying. Now, I'm not telling you to make it super easy for new people. The point is to get them out to shoot and to start training them how to become accurate and become better. But what I'm saying is that confidence is boosted when targets are hit. I like to keep things interesting, and so having a steel target big enough for them to shoot from maybe 25 yards away and they hit it, it makes for a very, very good time for them. And then when that confidence is boosted, smaller targets become easier for them to hit. Now, I can attest to this whole confidence thing that I'm talking about because I've been there. When I've gone out with my buddy Logan to do long range shooting, that is a hard skill to learn. It's really hard to get good at adjusting your windage and elevation and stuff like that. And after a while, when you don't hit the target, you start getting discouraged. You start making excuses for yourself. And I like to try to avoid that with new shooters. I like to set them up so that they're successful with their first range time. There's just something psychological about hitting that target, hearing that sound, and just kind of boosting that confidence. Simple as that. Just set them up for success and help them to know what it feels like to win a little. Number 7, have fun. Now, this 7th point should go without saying. Make sure when you're shooting that you try to keep the whole range time and the gun handling and the explanations all stress-free. Hopefully, when you follow all the guidelines that I provided in this video, that you and your new shooters will definitely have an enjoyable time.
Oh, geez.
In order to keep things stress-free, after explanations have been done, run-throughs have been completed, all this stuff, make sure to do cool little competitions. Do reloading drills, dry fire drills. Show them what you know, but don't try to overload them all in one range session. Have a rough plan of how you think the day should go without being overbearing about it. Allow some flexibility in the day. Listen to your new shooters. Make sure they're having fun. If they're not having fun, ask them what would make it fun. When you have everything you need, that's when people will have a lot of fun. What are some things you guys like to share with new shooters when you take them out to the range? I really want to know what you think in the comments below. If this video was informative to you in any way, go ahead and hit that like button. Well, that's going to be all for today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.